Welcome back to the Hurry Up Offense Fantasy Football News and Advice for Week 18 of the 2022 and 2023 Fantasy Football season for the very last time this year. I am Smokey Rameriz, your Fantasy Football Pro. Let's go. Today's topic is all about people who have a Week 18 championship and how you should not be having a Week 8 championship. But here I am for you just in case you are. Plus, we'll get into the news, and I want to talk about something since it's my last time for this season. You're probably not going to hear from me until about draft time or so next season. I want to tell you who you should be targeting when it comes to your draft next year. I'm talking about players that had fallen off this year. Players who used to be elite, but they had fallen off. And you need to target them next year because they are going to be values. They are dropping in value right now, so you're going to get extra value come next season. I'm going to give you one of those from each position. Anyway, let's get into the news. Here's a crazy one for you crazy Week 18ers. The Chargers might end up resting the starters. If the Bengals beat the Ravens, and they are currently 7-point favorites in the early slate of games on Sunday, the Chargers will clinch the AFC number 5 seed and have nothing to play for versus the Broncos on that slate. Think about this. If you're depending on Herbert or Keenan Allen, or even Austin Eckler, if you're playing in your championship in Week 18, there's a good chance you have Austin Eckler. He's been one of the best running backs this year. So probably to the 40% or so of you guys that actually have Austin Eckler, yeah, probably want to watch out. He might not be playing. Have you a backup? I mean, waivers have already ran, obviously, is when you're hearing this. That's a tough one. Definitely look for a pivot point in that one. Dawson Knox was a full participant on Wednesday, so it looks like he's going to be out there and playing this week. Allen practices in full on Wednesday. He had that ankle and the elbow issue, but I think they have something to fight for, and they are going to be out there playing. Jacoby Myers, who was limited by a shoulder, was listed as limited to practice. This injury has plagued Myers for a few weeks now, but if he's out there, these are the kind of guys you're going to be looking forward to playing this week when superstars are sitting. Now, look for the teams that definitely have a reason to play, that have a championship to lock up, or a seed they could move up or down if they lose. So those are the guys you need to be playing this week. The Patriots are a team that definitely need to win, so definitely get on that. Another one, Treylon Burks was limited Wednesday with the Titans. Now with his quarterback situation, I want to believe in Burks, and maybe this is a pivot point, but I am way too afraid of that offense at this time. They are horrible. They're not getting anything done. Yeah, as much as I would say, even in Week 18 with so many fantasy superstars that are going to be sitting, I don't know that I would pivot to Treylon Burks. I'll leave it at that. Stidham logs a full practice after having a wonderful week. Now, Stidham's a guy you're probably pivoting to if one of your superstars happens to be injured or if they are sitting this week for whatever reason. Jacobs did not practice. That's a problem. That's definitely a problem. Sky Moore, limited at practice. So many people. Elijah Mitchell is designated to return for the 49ers. Now, this is a big deal because McCaffrey is limited. He's day-to-day with the ankle. He's got an ankle sprain. So, this is a guy you should be picking up right now before your opponent in the championship does. This has become my Miles Sanders of this year, if you've watched the show in previous years. But I will say this one more time, for the last time this season, Mecole Hardman has been activated and is likely to play this week. Now, I've been seeing this article for at least 5 or 6 weeks now. I still am not seeing Cole on the field. So, they're promising me he'll play this week. Or at least he's off IR. We'll see what happens with that one. Murray not expected to be ready for the start of the 2023 season. There's something for next year. Man, I would take a shot on Kyler Murray late in drafts because people are not going to draft him right up front, or at least in the first few quarterbacks, that is. Like usually, what did he go this year? 5 or 6, something like that. He's probably going to drop because he's not going to be available. If you can pick up in your next draft, if you can pick up a lower level quarterback, like late in draft, and then get Kyler Murray late, QB 12 or 13, that might be a good spot. I'll have to look and see where he falls closer to draft time, but man, you might be in a good position there for when he does come back. However, I will say this is a 9+ month injury. The next season is a little over 8 months away. So if there are any setbacks, you could be without him for quite some time, but I think it's worth putting him on your IR at the beginning of the season. And of course, David Blau is going to start this week. Hopkins, he's not going to play. Sam Howell to start the season finale for the Washington Commanders. If there is absolutely no quarterbacks on your waiver, maybe you're in a dynasty league and all the quarterbacks are gone, Sam Howell is something you can take a shot on. Hey, crazier things have happened. There have been rookies come in and be valuable in this season, as a matter of fact. So, there you go. Justin Fields is ruled out. That's another reason you might need Sam Howell. Cowboys cut James Washington. Now, you would have to be in a really deep league or a dynasty to care about that, but he's gone. Teddy Bridgewater still has a chance to play in 18. Right now, it's up in the air which of these quarterbacks in Miami is actually going to play. There's still a long shot at this point that Tua could be playing, and Teddy Bridgewater still has a chance. So, you're going to have to keep an eye on that. I mean, the quarterback situation in Week 18 is so hideous right now. Superstars are sitting out. So many injuries at quarterback. I wouldn't want to be playing Week 18, and that's what I've been pointing out to you. You shouldn't be playing Week 18. Here's one thing that I pointed out on the scoreboard. The Bucs plan to play all of their starters, according to Coach Todd Bowles. We'll see if that actually happens. But I pointed out that I think because Tom Brady wants as many stats as he can get because his career is coming to an end at some point. Maybe it's not this off season, maybe it's not the next, but it's going to happen sooner or later, and we know Brady wants all the stats he can get, and he doesn't want to finish, easy for me to say, he doesn't want to finish this season with a losing record. So, he's going to be out there trying to win this game in Atlanta, and that could be some stats for you. That's pretty much it for the news this week. Let's get on to the game theory portion of the show. Might not even make it to 15 minutes this week, but here's the deal. Next season, you're going to be coming up to your draft, and you're going to be thinking, I remember a few players from last season that really dropped in value, and I am not going to draft these guys. But listen, hear me out. There's a few guys that you were probably planning to not draft because they burnt you this year. There's plenty of them, actually. Guys that burn you and you just vow, I am not taking these guys next year. But some of those guys, especially the ones that used to be elite, are going to return to prominence, and you're going to wish you didn't say that. Now, I'm going to go position by position. Since I don't have a lot of time, I'm going to give you one name at each position and to give a tiny little bit of synopsis of why you should be taking them. I'll start with wide receiver. I am going to point out DK Metcalf. Now, DK Metcalf is an elite, dominant, physical receiver who just happened to have a bad season. He is playing with Geno Smith out there, for God's sake. Now, he has had wonderful blow-up weeks, and he's had some really bad weeks. If you played him in Week 17, you know what I'm talking about. One reception for, 15 yards, whatever it was. It was something ridiculous. That may have been Justin Jefferson's, as a matter of fact, but you're definitely not going to not draft Justin Jefferson because of all the good weeks that he did give you. But DK Metcalf, you're probably thinking, if you had him this year, I do not want him. He is going to return to prominence. He is that type of player. He's going to get with the right quarterback at some point, and he is going to be wonderful for fantasy football. Let's get on to tight end. Who do you think let us down the most this season? Who used to be extremely elite? George Kittle. Yes, George Kittle had a bad tight end fantasy football season. You can't say too much because so did every other tight end outside of Kelsey. And in the past few weeks, Kelsey has been letting you down. That's just how tight end is this year. That's just it. But it's going to fix itself at some point. The ship is going to be righted. Like at some point, you would like to think that we're going to get tight end production again. And if we don't, at least you have the comfort of knowing that no one else has one also. But George Kittle is an absolute elite receiving machine. He gets you touchdowns. He gets you lots of catches when he's on. He had a bad year this year. Yes, I know somebody's going to point out that he's a great blocking tight end. Yes, and he is. But he's also an elite pass-catching tight end. And he will get you tons of points when he has those big blow-up games, as we saw leading into the last year. But for this reason, for this bad season, he might drop in your draft next year. Don't draft these guys too early because you can get better value later on because the other people are not going to be drafting these guys. So draft them ahead of their ADP to ensure that you get them, but don't take them too early because you will have multiple elite options on your team. Running back, DeAndre Swift. I bet you, if you had DeAndre Swift on your team this year, you are never going to want to play DeAndre Swift again. This is where you're wrong. DeAndre Swift is an elite running back in the NFL, and he will return to prominence, possibly very early on in the upcoming season. You need to draft DeAndre Swift above his ADP. If not, somebody else is going to have him. You're going to be happy about it at first because you're going to be like, he burnt me last season and I don't want anything to do with it. That's where you're going to be wrong. When you watch your opponent stroll on to the championship with DeAndre Swift on their team and another elite fantasy football option. This year we saw it with Saquon Barkley. If you took Saquon Barkley, you had two elite running back options because you can take one in the early rounds and then get Saquon when he is slipping down the rankings. He went way down in ADP over the past 2 seasons, as a matter of fact. But we knew he would return to prominence at some point. He is an elite pass-catching, dominant physical runner who is extremely talented. I'm talking about one of the best prospects to come through the NFL in many years. Did it this year, didn't he? But now you're going to be the guy who has next year's Saquon Barkley. DeAndre Swift. Look for him. Now, the very last one, I'm going to give you a quarterback option. And this is going to be so divisive to some people because some people will refuse to draft this guy for moral reasons. And that happens to be Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is an elite quarterback who did some questionable things in his free time and caused majority of the fantasy football world to come down on him. And he got punished for that. Now he's back, and he wasn't doing too hot when he came back at the end of this season. But the fact is, the more time he gets with this team, in this offense, he is going to get better and better because he is absolutely that kind of talent at quarterback, and he will win someone a fantasy football championship in the future. If you are not opposed to it. Now, if you are absolutely opposed to ever having a guy like Deshaun Watson on your team, I get it. People, we are playing their stats. We are not playing the people themselves. You got to understand that. That's the thing about fantasy football is you have to separate the character of the player from the stats you are using to win fantasy football championships. And some people can't separate that. And if that's what you do, then that's what you do. I'll leave you to it. But those stats are going to be out there and somebody's going to be using them. Why not you? Guys, go win you a Week 18 fantasy football championship, you crazy Week 18ers. It doesn't make any sense to me, but it is what it is. That's another thing. You might just be into Week 18 for some weird reason. You like the turmoil and turbulence, I guess. So go win you a championship. Hey, if you want to hear Alex and I break down every single game every single week, even into the playoffs and the Super Bowl, that's the scoreboard. It's out on the channel right now. Just go look it up. It's already there for you. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the Beyond Football channel. And for the last time, for the 2022/23 fantasy football season, I am Smokey Rameriz, your fantasy football pro. I'll see you next season. Deuces.